Has anybody made a pitch to anybody for coming on this?
I talked to a lot of people
Did
that
you?
light up like Elmo,
Good.
and I don't know if anyone's applied. They were all new people new to the city.
Oh, well, good. Well, it is 6:30. All right, it's 6:30. I'll call to order the City of Lake Elmo Parks Commission for the date of December, December 18th, 2023. If you could all rise with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our, third order of business is to approve the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look that over in advance? Any adjustments or? I would like to make a motion to table number 7, just so we can concentrate on the Parks Works Plan. If somebody wants to second that, we could discuss and we could ask our city staff whether that's pertinent or whether there's some time constraints. But I would make that motion to strike that for the evening and table it for next meeting.
Second it.
Okay, discussion on it again. I'd like to be able to pay full attention to the 2024 Parks Works Plan without having any feeling for time constraints. With that, is there, Adam, time constraints relating to that item?
No, not necessarily. It was just being put in for discussion, just to bring up some ideas so we can start planning for those playground replacements in 2024. So, yeah, no time constraints with that item.
Okay, so it would not hurt us to move it to January. The other option is we can see how the night goes, and we could amend the agenda then. We could vote no to my motion, or you vote the way you want to, obviously. And we could wait till later. If we buzz through the works plan, we can.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Okay. So, any other discussion on that?
I think it's a good idea to wait and see how it goes.
Agreed.
Okay,
Agreed.
well, let's, so I call the question. All those in favor of amending the agenda to table a playground replacement? All those against?
Against.
Against, no. It's a unanimous no. First time that's happened. Okay, so does anybody want to make another motion?
I move to approve the agenda as it's written.
I will second that. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yes. That's unanimous. So we will move to the minutes, last November 20th, 2023 minutes. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read that over. Are there any modifications or questions or discrepancies?
Well, I have a question about the one about appointing a new vice chair. It says for the next month or two.
Okay.
I firmly would like to keep it to that, so,
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you recall, Commissioner Eisch, whether that was your wording for a month or two? That seems not correct.
I don't recall that. I guess it depends on when we're going to elect the new leadership for our commission, if that's going to be January or February.
is that normally in January? The
Yep,
first
we normally
option?
bring those back in front in January.
Okay, all right, as long as it's up in January, I'm fine with that then, okay.
So perhaps,
Can we make a motion to amend the minutes to say through January meeting? That's not how that works.
Well, if we're not certain that's what it was, this would be a correction to the minutes, so no.
Yeah,
Although
okay.
if we're following our own process, as the Assistant Public Works Director just said, we should not have an issue with
Okay.
being reelected in January.
I would think that
All right.
language would follow the next month or so if it's the January meeting.
Case there's
That
a-
falls in line.
In case there's a blizzard next month.
All right.
Um,
I move to accept the minutes then, since that's
Second.
here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Next order of business is public comment. I do see that we have individual, Mr. Manzara. Is this a public comment or a agenda item? Oh, sorry, a general public comment. You're welcome. You're at the podium. Could you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. My name is Tony Manzara. My address, 5050 Kirkwood Avenue North in Lake Elmo. And I'd like to make some comments about the, let's see. How do I click it to get this up here? Oh, just start slideshow? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about Sunfish Lake Park and some things that have happened there and a suggestion.
Mr. Manzara, before I interrupt, or I'm sorry, before you start, I'll interrupt briefly, and you just state your address, just for the record.
50 Kirkwood Avenue North, Lake Elmo, Minnesota, 55042.
Thank you.
Okay, Sunfish Lake Park has been called a hidden jewel in Lake Elmo, and at one time, there was a big concern that there wasn't enough traffic really to make it safe. John Ames explained to me years ago that things that happened in Sunfish Lake Park because there was nobody there, basically, and anybody that would want to do anything scurrilous would get away with it pretty easily. And I know myself from walking in the park, it's pretty rare, it was pretty rare in those days that you'd ever encounter anybody there. But what's happened is that the Nature Center was permitted, and during Clark's previous term, he was one of the people that we talked to about getting it started back in 2015, 2016. And it's really grown very, very well. We adopted the park back in 2018. We were the first people to adopt a park in Lake Elmo after Rob Weldon started that Adopt a Park program. And even though we had to shut down because of the governor's order during COVID, things have come back pretty well. And during the past year that we've been logging things, we logged over 5,000 visitors for 1 year, and we've had over 3,100 volunteer hours. And that doesn't include the volunteer hours that were spent cutting buckthorn. So we feel that it's well-positioned for future growth. We've got good staff members, and with the growth of the city of Lake Elmo and a lot of new people with a lot of little kids, we're really well-positioned to make it a premier educational institution for nature education. And we're working on really stepping up our game here. But then, as the mountain bike trails were put in early 2021, there was a significant increase in use of the park, and it's great. I would say that there's probably 10 times more people using the park on an average daily basis than there were 10 years ago. And I would say that roughly 3/4 of those people that come to use the bike trails, and maybe the other quarter or thereabouts are more hikers and nature center people. But it's really been good. But along with this great growth, we've had an issue with parking. There are events there that take up the entire parking lot and more. So that's what I wanted to talk about here. The current parking lot capacity is about 20 vehicles. And if you look at the picture there, people don't park as close as they have to at Cub, so they, kind of spread out a little bit. But the most you get is about 20 vehicles, and then people end up parking up and down the entry road and the exit road. And it's not a horrible hazard because most people don't go too fast down there, but it is inconvenient, especially for people that can't walk very far. In fact, when we had a large event, we've had permission from Gary Johnson, Reverend Johnson at the Common Ground Church to use their parking lot. But again, that's a half mile for an older person to walk. Well, that's the same as for a younger person, but it takes longer. And we've even borrowed a golf cart to transport people up and back. But it'd be nice if the parking were able to be increased. Adam pointed out that when the new dog park is completed, there will be parking, but that's the other end of the park. And even though it might be great for some people that want to hike the far trails, it's far from the blue and green bike trailheads, and it's also far from the nature center. So basically, I want to suggest that we could think about in your next year's work plan to consider increasing the size of the parking lot. And I know there's issues with, permeable versus impermeable surface and slopes and getting permission from the land trust and money and everything. But I myself could envision that you could smooth down the area between the entry and exit roads from the current parking lot up to the first pine tree there and make roughly 20 head-in slant parking spaces without a whole lot of trouble. That's just my suggestion. And then staff would just have to be asked to look into that. And I wanted to spend one more minute, because I know you're busy tonight, with some of the latest news. Just today we got the notice that we were awarded another $50,000 from the DNR to continue on the buckthorn removal and restoration program. So far that counts up to $650,000 over a 6-year program that George has been able to bring in. And I don't know if you had a chance to walk through the park and compare the restored area versus the unrestored area, but it's amazing how much difference there is. This $50,000 is going to go towards making sure that some of the other invasives are held down. There's Oriental bittersweet and some other things in the area that we've done, and then also getting the controlled burn plans working properly. Because the only way we're going to keep buckthorn out of this park is by having a controlled burn on a regular basis like you do in the prairie. Another thing that's happened is we had requested a grant from the community forestry program to do a tree trek. And the Washington County Master Gardeners really wanted to identify some of the trees and tell people what kind they are to make an interesting walk. And we didn't get that because we had put in quite a bit of requests for things like multilingual and multimedia and, having some facilitating meetings to see what kind of educators in the area would want to do with something like this. So we didn't get that grant, but we decided we'd go ahead anyway. And with Marty's permission, we put signs by 39 of the trees, and we built a website to let people take out their phone and get the QR code and see what tree they're looking at. And we're working on giving them information much more detailed than you normally get in such a thing. Oakdale has a tree trek, and we kind of modeled it on that one, but our information is going to be much more detailed and hopefully more interesting. We've got support from our Lakota medicine man, Paul Red Elk, who's giving us information about how these trees were used in Native American medicine, and the Master Gardeners are helping us populate this website with very interesting information. And we say that this is just a start, because we've done this on a shoestring, and if we can go ahead and get some money, we could do the audio guide and things like that we're hoping to do in various languages, especially Spanish and Hmong, which are the ones that are here used in this area. And perhaps we can get something in Lakota or Ojibwe language too, if somebody's able to do that for us. So we're just starting out, and we can see this as a model for other interpretive things in the park that wouldn't really affect the park much, except we'd bring more people in to learn things about the amphibians and mammals and the lichen and whatever else there is in the park that people might be interested in. So thank you for your attention, and good luck with your plan. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them, but I know you don't have a lot of time.
Oh. Commissioners, questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Menzar.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the 2024 Parks Work Plan.
Thank you. Good evening.
Excuse that off.
They don't let you do it anymore.
Well, it's all on the record.
Okay. Good evening, thank you. So tonight we'll be talking about the 2024 work plan. Just a little bit of background on that. Again, each year the Parks Commission is tasked with developing an annual work plan, which includes a list of projects, maintenance items, programs, and goals for the year. Staff has built the 2024 work plan off of the 2023 work plan that we've completed within the last year. Projects for 2024 have been broken down into the following categories. Staff has kind of minimized these categories. You may have recognized that from before. We used to have 5, possibly 6, depending on your length of the term on the council. So, or on the commission. We've converted these down to 4. Planning, development, planning, project and development, maintenance, refurbishing, additional park incentives, and then again, finance. So the issue before the Parks Commission, would the Parks Commission like to accept the 2024 work plan as proposed? First section, planning, project and development. A lot of these items on here are, have been listed as CIP items, and so these have been listed that we identified in June as items that we put as a status of high priorities that we'd want to address sooner, and we allotted those for years throughout that CIP. So these are those items that came up in there. So first item, update the Parks Master Plan. So that's currently in process right now. We'll continue to, that plan will continue to grow and be put together throughout the spring months into the summer. And we should see that plan be presented to the Parks Commission around that July, August. I suspect probably more in that July area, so. Washington County Central Greenway Trail Plan, as you know, we've kind of assisted with putting money towards that fund, but also making that an event right here within the city of Lake Elmo. It's kind of been a long planning process for that, and we're just kind of sitting on the back seat right now waiting for the county in that. Connor from the Planning Commission in the parks, or sorry, in Washington County, he'll come and present to us in March on that Greenway Trail and give us an update on where that sits in their CIP, as well as what they propose might be the funding prospects for that on their side, any additional fundings, but what also they might be seeing from us as well. So you can expect him in March. We'll also outline the options for additional parking at Tablin Park. That was brought up as well as just an issue within winter for our snow tubers, as well as just our summer use. Probably one of our top 5 parks that we see a lot of parking at, or a lot more people gathering towards. So we've outlined some options of that park in the past, but it continues to be an issue, or continues to be brought up by our citizens to say that additional parking is needed there. So, staff will itemize some items. We'll bring forth just to present to you some options. We look forward for you guys to give us feedback, as well as maybe provide an option that we can submit to City Council. The fourth item is outline options for additional sand volleyball courts. Again, the staff will present options to the Parks Commission. We look for the Parks Commission to take those options and weigh those in and out as far as providing us input and moving forward with those as well. Our playground sets, Pebble Park and Demontreville, we know those were put in 1992 and 1990. So as we did last in 2022, we did some tours of our parks, and those 2 playground sets did come up as for replacement. So again, staff will present possible options for playground replacements, and we're looking for the Parks Commission to have discussion, give out some ideas of what we'd like to see, what age groups, and how we'd like that laid out in the park, and to present that to actually be completed in 2024 as well. Our final item is open the Lake Elmo Dog Park. As you know, last year we started some just groundbreaking stuff on that, as far as developing our parking lot, as well as some fencing and interior work. So this year we'll actually do some more interior work as far as apply benches, our interior fence for our small dogs, as well as our de-lashing or de-leashing area as well, and a water fountain as well for dogs as well. So that includes opening with a sign, some signage for the interior of the park, as well as a large sign out in front of that park too. Second item is maintenance and refurbishing. A lot of these items here are done by Public Works staff. Majority of these items are just daily routine items that are completed by Public Works staff through daily operations, including safety inspections, addressing any assessments of needs within our parks, if it's just be as small as basketball nets, or if it's like a broken park bench or something that needs to be assessed. With all of our trails, we also look at trail inspections to complete crack filling, seal coating, fogging of those trails throughout the year as well. And also put those on a plan throughout our CIP too. And finally, again, our playground and park inspections, those are done monthly by a certified playground inspector that we have on staff. Additional park incentives, this is where we'll find probably some of your suggestions, as well as future suggestions if we plan to motion to amend the Parks Master Plan. We'll probably see a lot of items be added to this section, but hold that Parks Commission work session with City Council. As you know, that comes up in January 9th of next month. So we'll be looking to complete that. I think that was a benefit to both departments at that time, to just kind of get a feel for what the commission as well as the City Council is looking for through each other, and how we can streamline things a lot easier through the process. Second item, seek land for purchase for multi-sport use. As you know, in the last year, we did discuss baseball items in length. That went to the City Council, who's asked that we look at to purchase land for our multi-sport use. Several items did come back to me, which when making up the work plan, but we may want to look at that land purchase as probably one of our first items to maybe tackle before tackling some of these items where we talk about a community center and a facility and things like that. So that might be something we want to push to get some more feedback and some background on for the purchase of that land. Again, naming of the new dog park, we've kind of already started a few things on that, but we'll present some of those ideas and some of those agenda, or I shouldn't say agenda items, it should be ideas from our citizens. So we'll present that to you and come up with a new name for our dog park in 2024. Park tree planting, currently the Public Works does plant probably about 10 to 15 trees throughout our parks, as it's kind of always been a, and these are larger trees, I would say like 8 to possibly 12-foot trees. So we would continue doing that, as well as what was brought up by a commissioner of possibly a tree planting event. Those are some suggestions we could bring towards the commission of some activities or ideas that we want to do to promote involvement with the community, as well as promote our parks in general. The next one, add to Montreville Wild Park as a ski grant application. We currently groom that trail that area, but it isn't part of our ski grant. We're looking to add that to our ski grant for additional funds, as well as promoting more outdoor activities and additional areas to enjoy the park trails in the wintertime. And the last one, oversee the efforts of the buckthorn removal in the Sally Manzaro Nature Center. As what was presented before, they are in the third phase, so you can probably see additional reports from them throughout the year for additional funds. A lot of those grants do count for about 10% that we look for the city to contribute to, so a lot of times we'll see them come back and ask for that 10% coming from our park dedication funds. On the last section, finance, update the capital improvement plan. We'll do that in the June, July era again, and provide budget updates as needed, not only at commission meetings, but also as well as just giving us an update on funds available in our park dedication fund balance. Our options tonight are to approve the Parks Commission 2024 work plan as presented or amend it. Our recommendation is staff recommends the motion to recommend the 2024 Parks Commission work plan to City Council. With that, I'll take any questions or amendments.
Commissioners, you have questions for?
When would this go to the city council if it's approved tonight?
So we will, January 9th, we'll go to our workshop and we'll discuss this in length again. But it'll probably be in that February city council meeting that we could probably see this going.
So comments from the city council workshop could be incorporated.
Correct.
Into the plan. Thank you. Did you want to go through it one by one, or how did you want to go through this?
Well, I think general questions first on the presentation is probably appropriate, and then figure that out next. I guess I have just a general question of, you had started the presentation with, by stating that staff had minimized the sort of categories to 4 from 5 or 6 or whatever.
Right.
I think it was maybe 6. Do you have, why was that? I guess, what's the?
It's just to kind of summarize, because some of those things were overlapping, like our nature and conservation were items that we were always utilizing under our planning and policies anyway, and so that's why we merged those together. So that's kind of, and it was kind of, not only was it under planning, but it was also being utilized under our park awareness too, as just our nature conservations on our, not only our websites, but also in our parks themselves too. So we were kind of double dipping on a number of those, so that's why we kind of merged some of those together.
Yes, comment would be I have sort of the opposite perspective, where I really thought that the distinct categories was useful rather than additional park initiatives as a catch-all. So I was surprised to see that whittled down. Another quick question. You had mentioned a certified playground inspector. To my knowledge, to my recollection, that's the first I've heard that term. Is that new, or we had somebody that's a certified playground inspector? And
No, so our current playground inspector, he's been on staff for 5 years.
Oh.
And I would say that he's probably been certified for like, the last 3 years, he's been
Okay.
certified. So, and those are monthly inspections that he'd go around, he checks for cracks and breaks and loose bolts and things
Okay.
like that, and just, provides feedback and just kind of a quick assessment on those on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Yep.
So when he does those assessments, has that specifically informed our plan for replacing the park equipment? Meaning, if we said, hey, certified playground inspector, what do you think about Pebble Park? And he makes his determination, and we say, okay, based on that, we should be doing this.
Yes, we have definitely used him in the CIP process as well, to just itemize to say like, where does Tablin sit versus Demontreville, or where does, Pebble sit versus, Lions Park? And, as you know, we moved Lions Park up in our CIP, and he's one of the reasons why we did that. Or provided feedback on the reasons why we did that. So yes, he is involved on the backside of that, very much so.
This person's in works, not in the inspection part of the city, right?
He's in Public Works Division, correct?
Thank you.
Does, I guess, question to commissioners, do you recognize that we had a parks inspector
No.
No, I did
certified?
not.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't totally forgetting something. That's interesting to know.
Yeah, it's available for all staff to take it. I think we've only had 3 staff attempt to take the test. It's not an easy test. And we currently have 1 that's a certified.
I think the point there is, I don't remember when we were looking at replacing playground equipment or talks about damaged playground equipment, that anybody just said, hey, by the way, this came from our playground inspector. They just kind of originated, okay? So I would suggest that in the future, if it's something that the playground inspector, the certified playground inspector has brought forward, that would be nice for us to know that.
Right.
Further questions, or?
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for this update. So you mentioned that Connor was gonna come in from Washington County in March, which is great. Thanks for arranging that. I'm just curious if any of these other items which have a higher priority, if there's also invited guests that we should just kind of be aware of off the top of our minds as we think about this work plan for the next year? Or if that's the isolated example here.
No, like, as indicated before, like, for instance, your Parks Master Plan. It definitely
Okay,
wasn't,
okay,
it won't be presented by me, they'll be presented by Bolton and Mink and their
Okay.
findings, right? But besides those 2, that would probably be what I see forthcoming.
Okay.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So what is the procedure, or how do we get feedback from citizens if there's something in a park that needs attention? Do we have saying, hey, if there's an issue, email this to the swing is bad or the slide broke?
Yep, so most of that is funneled right through the Public Works, either by phone or it comes to City Hall. A lot of our clerks or our front office staff would just contact us directly through email.
That's something we could put on our parks webpage?
Yes, it is on our webpage, the contact information is on there. We did also ask our contractor for our Parks Master Plan for some additional ideas on that as well. Is there a maintenance app, or is there something they could just a quick link, leave a name, phone number, and contact the result of the problem on the website as well. That's an option that they've brought forward for us as well, so.
Yeah, we want to make it easier
Yep.
for citizens to tell us about issues that are,
Be
before they
invested.
grow up to be big issues.
Correct.
Well, to your question, as far as going through them one by one, I guess, I think the Assistant Parks or Public Works Director went through them one by one. We could either take a motion to accept it as it is, as his summary says, or if someone knows that they've got something they would seek to amend, or if they want additions or something, somebody could make a different motion.
I guess I have questions on one of the use, you know, you talk about the land for the new multi-purpose sport, baseball fields, other activities. I know the city councils, this has been on their plate for the last number of months. Have they gone any further with this, or are they still looking for land?
So if you remember, what happened was that our city planner, Sophia, went through and she itemized a number of areas that were available that the city could look at for future purchase, right? There were some criterias with that, right? One of those criterias was that it had to have access to three-phase power, as well as, access to a primary road and things like that. So, with that, we're waiting for several things to come back. One of those I know in general is contact from XL Energy on just whether or not some of those lots are still eligible for that, or still would have access to that.
And that's the last I had heard as well. Are we looking to gather information on co-oping with where the new location of the new Lake Elmo Elementary School might be as well, or not even considering if they've got the land, tentatively at 10th and Lake Elmo right now, are we looking at some of those sites in that area as well, or shying away from the Stillwater School District?
No, I don't think it's out of the question. I'd have to go back and look and see exactly the item or the lots that were actually plotted out by our city planner. But I think, definitely are working together to make a concept work, right? If it's either collaboration with with the school district, or if it's gonna be separate, and it's a whole separate entity. So-
Right, and with all the entities, you have the district, you have the VAAs, you have the Lake Elmo baseballs, you have a lot of people that are very interested parties in what this decision is, and I'm sure it will come up on January 9th.
And some additional ones, yes.
Yeah, and I'm basically trying to get together with the school district, obviously, because they presented a concept plan, not very detailed, so we have nothing to respond to that from staff. It's more up to council, if you have watched or heard, for them to weigh in. Are they supportive of this type of thing? Would we expand the MUSO, meaning will we put in sewer? Will we let them hook up to city water when we have water allocation issues? So those are kind of some unknown questions that we'll be looking at in the first part of January. I'll set up a meeting. But I had not thought about, could we partner up with them to say, can we put a pinwheel? They call it a pinwheel, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, can we put in can a pinwheel go in there, and would we be able to, if they weren't gonna maybe put in 4, they were gonna put in 2, maybe we could fund the other 2? Maybe there's some synergy there that could be made.
You put a pinwheel in like that, or you put a 4-pinwheel softball, and you put a baseball with it, or a multi-purpose field for everybody else, for the ultimate frisbees, the soccer, the lacrosses. That's a big fiscal impact for the city to take care of. So,
Do you have any experience with school districts allowing leagues on their fields on weekends and other types of things? Is there any liability to the school district for hosting those kind of
I
things?
work for a school district and run a sports center that has a pinwheel, a baseball field, and 3 multi-purpose fields, so we run weekend and
So, yeah, schools don't have any concern about that then?
our issue is we're a partner with the city, is how we deal with some of that with their leagues, and we outsource some of the scheduling with the athletic association, and then they take care of maintenance. They cut the grass. We, as a district, we prep the fields and do that work, and then we share across the fertilization and the maintenance. We also have pickleball courts and other items, or playground equipment, so we kind of shared across all 3 groups.
So if I talk to the school district, that's something that has already been invented. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could just borrow from other cities and say, would you be interested in this as part of this concept going forth? So, yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
One other just quick aspect of that is, and based upon what the superintendent for the school district said, is their plans for the old Lake Elmo School is that their number 1 plan is to sell the land and demolish it. Well, for those of you aware, one of probably the premier handicap playgrounds is right connected with that. And so that might be also something that would aid in that connection with the school districts, with this multi-sport thing that we're coming up with. So just keep that in mind in discussion. In fact, back to this plan, we might want to change this. I know you wanted to prioritize this question, but can we expand it to talk a little bit about what we might include in that multi-sport complex, other than just the land? Or should we just focus on the land in the staff's opinion?
Well, I think this is a long topic that I think, is gonna branch off in a lot of different avenues. And I think our focus right now is either land or a combination of, collaboration with possibly a school district or whatever it might be, right? But we may wanna go down one avenue at a time. If we start talking about, I think the city council has already identified that they want it more than just baseball, right?
Right.
So if we start itemizing, that we wanted 3 alternate fields and, things like that, then all of a sudden we get a broader thing that we can't fit into our size of land that maybe we purchased.
So another way to phrase that is that for a 2024 plan and the objective of achieving it during that year, you're suggesting this wording to focus on the land. Not that we won't get to those other things, but it would not be within the frames of 2024. Is that a correct
Correct,
understanding?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to figure out what plot of land we want, we kind of need to figure out what we're gonna put on it, right? At least a little bit of an idea, if we're gonna add pickleball courts or we're looking for sand volleyball courts, added pickleball courts has come up every other month. What is our master plan for this, which tough to find the piece of land if we're not 100% sure what we're gonna put in it.
I'm gonna circle back to that topic, but I think Commissioner Reich has a
Yeah, I
comment.
guess, so my comment is, and I guess that's kind of where I was going with it, if we're having any more invited experts or speakers, is, yeah, maybe, it's sounding like an additional park initiative to also hold a joint, stakeholder meeting, Parks Commission meeting, City Council work session on the components of a multi-sport use, like a needs assessment, to be a lower priority so that we can get moving on some of these things and also incorporate the existing work of the Parks Master Plan work into this and build off of that. But it seems like there is an opportunity to do a little more slicing and dicing here.
You have a joint workshop with the council in February? Or March?
January.
January?
Yep.
Oh, so that'll be on January 9th?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So that might be a good place for.
Yeah, and I guess I wanted, you had raised the point of, started the conversation of, hey, we gotta find some land. I was under the impression that the vote with council was to vet whether this was even possible, whether the land existed, and then decided whether, I didn't understand that whether there were gonna be ball fields or a multi-use complex had been decided. Am I incorrect in that?
No, I think it was more that, I think there was some council members that addressed that they weren't in favor of purchasing land just for the use of baseball.
Right, yeah, but it seemed to me that the question, that the vote, the search, the vet was, hey, does this even exist? Can we still even do this?
Right. Yeah,
And
I
so this line item here of seek land to purchase multi-use sport is maybe just forward thinking, if there's an if in there, perhaps.
Okay, yeah.
A big if, perhaps. And I think I would say the same about the first one on there, the update the Parks Master Plan. We have the advisory committee. Presumably some good work's gonna come out of that. We'd have to decide if we're going to update the Parks Master Plan. Whether that's you, or do we know it's gonna be updated?
So that's what they've been hired to do, correct?
That's what they've been hired to do, and it's got to be recommended to council. Council could presumably say, we're
We
not
won't
interested.
accept it?
Yeah, I mean, that, it seems unlikely since that's what they've been hired to do, but that's, I don't know, people are hired to do things
lot of
and get fired, I don't know. But I'm just saying that there is a bit of an assumption that there's still discussions before we're updating a plan. Correct? And it's gonna
Correct,
come
yeah.
to us?
Yes, like I said, they'll present that Parks Master Plan in front of the Parks Commission I think a month
Yeah.
or a month and a half before the.
So I guess to say it clearly, our work plan item for us as a commission is to review and make recommendations on the forthcoming advisory plan, master plan.
I could agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear because I start going in different directions if I understand things differently. So,
But going back to that multi-use sport thing, it is a priority one. So that looks like it's, the seeking is a done deal.
well, set by staff, correct? That's why it gets a little confusing. And that's why I asked the question.
Right.
is I don't want to make a priority for finding land when it hasn't been decided that we're doing a multi-use or baseball. I do understand the concept of, hey, we got to find land regardless of what's going on there. I get that. And then, don't have any issues with that. But I do think to seek land for purchase for a multi-use complex, to say it that way isn't really, maybe I'm being pedantic, but it's
Well,
not.
I think the thing is, we're gonna get it clarified when we
Yeah.
talk to the council. This, whatever the wording is, okay?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
It will expand or contract or go away based upon that meeting, okay? So the word's fine the way it is, I guess.
Well, I'm glad to see it as a priority one. I'll say that too.
Okay.
As it should be.
Well, again, if we want to accept it as is, somebody could make, well, we don't even have to, somebody can make a motion as such, and we can debate from there, or somebody can make a motion to amend, and we can debate from there.
I'd like to talk about a few things before we do some motions. Is that possible? Is that, I mean, some specific things here to get more information.
That's on the list already?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you need to get clarification from the Assistant
Okay.
Public Works Director, sure.
So this, regarding the DeMontreville Wildlife Parks ski grant. So I walked it yesterday, and as you may be aware, Esplenda has gone in and cleared out a lot of trees and brush and stuff. And I don't know if they took down any trail markings, but it was difficult to tell where to go when I got towards the south end towards the lake. And I ended up going through people's yards or taking paths that ended up in their yards because I wasn't quite sure where to go. So first of all, my first question is, are there trail markings that will be put up after that tree work has been done? And secondly is, where do they groom? They don't go right down to the lake and back up. I mean, that's so narrow there, do they? Are you familiar with the route of the groomer? Okay, so that's the second one. And then the third one, it's only like a half mile long. Do very many people use that trail? And it's hilly, so you're not gonna have kids beginner skis on it because it's quite hilly.
So we're talking about DeMontreville Wildlife Park, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Along
So,
the pipeline there.
There's a couple different forestry projects going on there right now. So there is a private company in there right now that's removing the trees along the gas line.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going out to their right of way, right, and clearing that for their maintenance purposes. The city, Public Works, has gone through and has trimmed trails through there. A lot of those trails have been there for a number of years, and they've kind of widened them out for the grooming purposes. So those trails do go all the way back to the gas pipeline, and then back up to the top where the wildlife, where the actual sign for the wildlife, DeMontreville Wildlife
At the north end.
Park is, yeah, on the north end.
Okay.
So as far as, yes, the trails are not marked at the current time, And the reason why is like when we do our trail grooming, that's part of that grant, is that they pay for the signage. And signs aren't cheap. And so that's why we utilize that grant, and that's why we widen those trails for grooming purposes, to make that whole process come together. So currently at the time, those trails are actually itemized now, so we know where they're at, right? So now we'll mark those trails on a map, make the maps, and present that to the DNR for the 2024-25 ski grant.
Okay. Do you know if many people ski back there?
So we've groomed that trail since we started grooming. So we groomed Reed, Pebble, and Demontreville. So we've always groomed that. So as far as the uses of the trail, I think it gets used just as much as Pebble, or probably not as much as Reed, but I think it's probably our second heavily used trails in the winter.
The other thing on the waypoints or the signs in there, we'll be integrating that with GIS for emergency response and emergency management. So if you are injured and you're close to a sign, you can say, I'm at sign 104 or whatever, and that will help our rescue come and get you. So that'll be part of that initiative also. And the city is doing that in all the parks eventually, so that we have better rescue plans.
Thank you, Adam. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay, so Adam, you said the city plants about 10 to 15 trees that are 8 to 12 feet tall per year in parks overall, not in each park, but overall,
No.
citywide?
Yeah, so we spread those out. So this last fall, because of how dry those summers get, we kind of moved more to just a fall planting. And that way we have more staff time to water them, because that's our biggest issue. Is like if we were to plant if we were to get a number of trees planted in the spring, we'd kind of have to baby those throughout all the summer, right? So this last year we planted some in Lyons. I think there's 4 parks we planted them in. But we planted them around Lions Park, around the baseball field, just to add some more shade there, because that's always been a concern, always been brought up in some of our surveys, as well as the lack of shade at some of our parks, on the interior side, right? So many of our parks have the woods or the shade on the outside. It's the interiors that we're losing a lot of that shade, either just older trees, like for instance up in Cleiss. We've cut down, I think, in the last couple of years, several of large oak trees, just because of oak wilt and things like that. So it's those interior trees that we're losing, right? So, but just to incorporate that shade back into the process. So.
Okay. That's great that there are that many being planted, but I think it's a really big issue now that summers are hotter and so forth. And I've been looking at parks and looking where the tables are next to playgrounds and so forth, where an adult might sit, or by the ball fields where somebody might sit while other people are active, whether they're kids or adults. And there's very little shade in a lot of them. And I think it would be nice, even to start with smaller ones, more and smaller ones, so that we can grow the forest in our, not a forest, but grow our shade trees in our city, somehow, not spending as much money perhaps, but implementing other plantings of smaller trees so that over time we can have more shade available as our climate changes.
Commissioner, are you suggesting a amendment to the work plan, or something for a future CIP, or just making comment?
I'm not sure which way to go, which would be more effective.
Would you want to spend more than $25,000 on planting trees? Okay.
I don't think we
So it's
can
going to likely be a work plan issue if it's something you want to generate. Put a priority number towards it. It's got to, you'd have to look at the public works budget to say, would we be able to fund that? If you're looking at just seedlings that we get like during Arbor Day, that'd be different than what we would spend like on those 12 to 15 trees when we're spending close to that $200 a piece. So, at minimum.
So you are looking to get something more comprehensive in this work
Yes.
plan than park tree,
Yes.
just a general, okay.
Well, if anything, raise the priority.
Yeah.
From the 4 up to a 2 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a 2 would be great.
Okay. So just a kind of a point of clarification, you are interested in going through this, commissioners, line by line to make changes and then make a motion to amend based on that? I guess I was looking, if everybody's like, hey, this is great, we can make a motion to pass it. Or if we're seeing things, then we would make a motion to amend. We could decide whether we approve that we're going to amend it, and then we could go through it, I guess is the way I was thinking. So I just want to make that clarification.
Well, can I make a motion to amend the 2024 Parks Commission Strategic Work Plan
You can.
discussion? Okay, I will make that. I make a motion to amend the 2024 Parks Commission Strategic Work Plan.
To be determined as we go through the
Yes, yes,
discussion.
yes, yes.
Second, it's fine.
Okay. All those in favor in amending?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, let's work on amending it. So, we've started the conversation on the park tree planting. Obviously, to Hank's point way back, it probably makes sense to go from top to bottom, but since we've started that, do you have some wording that you would want to see in that?
Sure. I move that we amend
Well, we can just do the,
Okay.
let's take the notes.
the discussion, okay?
Yeah.
I feel we should move it up from a level 4 priority to at least a 2.
Okay. I guess, yeah, we ran into this a little bit last year too with the items and as far as whether we were gonna approve it all. Here's what I would anticipate, just as chair, to go through this process is: one, we made the motion to amend, we're gonna work on amending it. Two, I think we can go by category and as a commission decide whether we want to approve the amendments to each category, and then we can make a motion to approve the entire thing. I think that's my intentions, to try and streamline so we are able to have the conversation about where the disagreements are, rather than making an emotion over on the whole thing, which eventually we will. That's my intention here, so. Okay, so move that to 2. Let's go back to the front, to the top. I'll say I'm in favor of utilizing the 5 categories we had previously, which means carving back out the conservation, the maintenance, the park awareness as separate categories. I think that helps us provide framework. I appreciate the staff perspective that it kind of, there's some overlap, that's inherent. But for me, and for driving what we want to do, I think it's, from my perspective, it's really helpful to say planning and policy, developing equipment, maintenance and refurbishing, nature and conservation, park awareness and finance. So, I guess what I'll do is I'll just take notes as we go through this and kind of carve out what I think that they belong under, and we can decide by vote whether we want to add those categories back in eventually. I'm trying to be, I'm trying to make this as efficient as possible, but proper as well. So, 1, update Parks Master Plan. That, to me, goes under public policy. That's my
Other than
personal-
the fact that we call it comprehensive, isn't that the word we stuck in?
Oh,
there?
sorry. Did I say something incorrect?
He read it as it is,
Oh, okay.
but didn't we change
We
it?
made a recommendation to consider renaming it,
Yeah.
Oh,
but I'm not sure that's prudent for this.
Okay.
I would prefer that to read, review and make recommendations on the advisory parks master plan. That's a work plan item specifically to us. As a commission, that's what we'll be doing as far as a deliverable, if you will, next step. Understanding that presumably the next step after that, somebody, staff will be updating. So maybe it says review, recommend, and update. Parks Master Plan. Certainly a priority one. I don't have any issues with that. Anybody, well, yeah, does anybody else have under planning and policy, which is the same as last year's category, have additions or amendments?
What about adding to the additional parking at Tablin, the request that came tonight for Sunfish Lake?
Yeah, or maybe there's a way to make it more general, to outline options for additional parking based on needs assessment or something like that. In case, because, I mean, I personally haven't tried to visit a lot of these parks at peak use hours. But, I live next to Reed Park, and sometimes that's also overflowing. I don't think it's a consistent issue, but I haven't thought about it in that way.
So my suggestion, if that was an intent of yours, is not to put it under project development and planning, because those are CIP items. Unless you
Oh,
expect
sure,
that
okay.
to be a $25,000 item, then you need to wait till July to put it on the CIP
Got it.
to
Okay.
complete in 2025.
Yep.
So if you want staff to present ideas, options, costs, and value, I would suggest putting it down as, depending on, Peter, how you want to mark that, park awareness, or conservation, unless you want to, like you said, split those up. You could put it under a different topic. If you were planning, if you want staff to present you with options, cost evaluation, and how many parking spots, or where we might be able to put that through, with talking with the Minnesota Land Trust and see if we're able to do that.
Yeah, I don't, as far as developing an equipping still seems entirely appropriate if it hasn't been decided whether it's being developed, but that's the discussion, presentation on options of development is certainly, that's a category, but you're asking to add the comment from, the public comment about exploring or,
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's open for discussion. I mean, Hank, I guess I would toss that back to you.
Yeah, I think we should just put it, he's saying that the planning and policy is CIP things, so we take it out of there and we put it into park awareness. I don't know. It's fine. The topic gets addressed.
what did you want that to be a little concise?
Let's just say outline options for additional parking.
Yeah, I think it reads the same way. It's just the fact that it's not a CIP thing.
Super specific,
So
yeah.
it puts over here.
A priority.
I would keep it at a priority 3.
I agree.
Does it make sense to say that, to bring it a step back to say, assess need for additional parking at Sunfish Lake Park? Is that,
I mean, I appreciate that in maintenance and refurbishing, there is already a parks need assessment. And so I don't feel a need to be overly redundant there. But that's just my personal opinion.
we, as an aside, got rid of our secretary about 5 years ago as a officer position. We actually need one to take these notes.
We got this.
Do we?
Yeah.
Maybe we should designate somebody tonight. Okay. So, Adam, to clarify, you're considering planning and policy items automatically in a CIP, is that,
Yeah, that's how I have that written.
okay.
All those items that are listed in there are all CIP items.
So, okay. So we couldn't review a policy. Is our updating a our parks plan, is that a CIP item?
Yeah, it was added. It's coming from our CIP items, yes. It was added after after our workshop last year.
Huh.
It is being split between the 2023-24 years.
I thought we had to, by statute, wait.
And that's maybe how we did that, is that it's because it's being split between 2 years, it wasn't a CIP item. Maybe that's
Huh.
how it was written out there.
Okay. I don't know that, I'm just gonna call it up, planning and policy anyway, but, I would like to see on our master work plan, at least the beginning, of a creation of a practice, a process and a practice for identifying specific land for park use and develop, before developers decide for us, which is the current practice. I think we've seen this, I think all of us to some degree have seen this play out where we're seeing parkland that is designated by developers and comes to us to make a decision on. Even in the Shilkin situation, they didn't even have parkland designated. We were assuming what it was. And I would really, as a work plan item, and again, whether it's all of the stuff we talk about on a work plan doesn't need to be completed next year. I understand that, but to say, hey, let's begin a process and have an actual, a stated, a written process, planning practice for identifying this land. And that includes the multi-use sports complex, right? Like, hey, we've had this in our comp plan for at least 3 comp plans, comprehensive plans, and in our master plan, but it just hasn't been done. And I'd like to see us, as a work plan, say, hey, let's do this. So I would put that as a priority 2.
How would you phrase that specifically?
I would phrase that by saying, create a process and practice for identifying specific actual parkland before developers purchase the land. Maybe they do end up purchasing the land and we lose out, but is that enough? Are you taking
I'm taking,
Good. good notes?
I could be taking better notes, but I am taking notes.
Okay.
I will ask for clarification
Yeah.
at the end, and I am happy to make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we're discussing that right now.
Sure.
That, I mean, I totally am on board with the sentiment of being proactive about everything that we do, right? I think that's so important. And I think we've seen that reflected in our work plan already and things like that. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity maybe to take that energy and apply it in, like, not an update to the work plan, like what Pat and I have been discussing with invasive species, in a way that can be folded or can be informative to the Parks Master Planning process. I'm just wondering if that's something additional to consider above and beyond
Yeah, well,
thinking of a recommendation.
can you explain more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, developing a city policy or something like that for being proactive about identifying future parkland for recreation and conservation benefit. Feels very valuable, and I wonder if its value could be increased somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Are you looking to have land zoned differently in order to make park space?
No,
or
I'm looking for us to have a practice as a city planner, park commission, council to some degree, to have a practice of identifying land that we want as parks. Because we have that identified, so specific land, parcels of land, real tangible land. We have a circle in our comp plan for parks. And continually, we have either, and this isn't 100%, when I say continually, I say it's not 100%, but we have either disregarded that in some circumstances, or in the Schiltgen case, the recommendation was, we don't need a park there. There was a big circle right around it. And so that process that we have in place isn't being practiced, and I'm looking for one that's being practiced. I also think that there's, in the case of the multi-sports complex has been in continual comp plans, but we don't have a practice. We haven't had a practice for identifying that. We haven't had somebody say, here's, whether it's the city planner or whoever it is, here's what the comp plan says, here's how we want you to go about this, here's our process, here's our practice for doing this. And we're going to have a process of reaching out to landowners to say, hey, we've got a circle over this. You got farmland. Do you have interest in keeping this as open space in the shape of a park? And maybe the answer is, well, how much money do you have? And, oh, no, that's not enough. And we have our answer. But at least we've asked the question, which to my understanding just really does not happen. I don't know that it happens in any, again, the sports complex is the first time I've seen the council do a proactive, hey, let's vet and let's identify if there's actual tangible land out there. I'd like to see that happen consistently.
Right, and I think that's the nature of the problem, although I'm not sure how we work this into the work plan, because it could be handled by the processes that you talked about. And there are existing zoning and planning, long-range planning things that identify these areas. And like I said, we have the strategic plan, but it's not happening. And the ballpark is the number one example, is the fact that, as Peter says, it's been on the radar for years, okay? But whatever it is, it's not bubbling to the surface that something proactively needs to be done, even with the ballpark finally because it was brought up. So I don't know how we're gonna put this into the work plan, but it is something that needs to be looked into, because it's not happening.
I guess a clarifying question, is there, you had mentioned zoning, are there zoning districts that preclude having parks? Because I don't believe there are. I don't know why zoning would ever be an issue for a city park.
So I don't think there's anything that would preclude it. I think you have to go through incompatible uses. You know, you want to say, do you want it next to an Amazon warehouse? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You know, those are, as we group things together, we try to make them useful. Do you want to put a park in an area? I know this is one of the things that we'll be evaluating as staff from a transportation standpoint. What type of infrastructure, besides the three-phase power, what type of, roads do we have? Are we gonna have a 21-foot road that you can't park on, that's gonna be a dead end? So, as we go through and evaluate that. The other thing that I'll caution against is, once we start getting specific, we're gonna have to find out how to talk about it legally within a closed session. Because if we all of a sudden start bringing up a property and say, what about this, what about this? Well, the first thing a property owner is going to do is contact a real estate agent, and then, they're gonna- just exactly what's going to happen there. So it's kind of a delicate balance where we want to talk about generalities, but once we start getting specific, we're going to make sure that we can talk about it in a way that's not going to be detrimental to the taxpayer if we're really interested in that. And like I said, I've just been here a week, so I'm hearing more about this, even today, getting caught up on what are we going to do with this? I mean, when I was here in 2015 and 2016, we identified a piece of property for a pinwheel close to the downtown area, and a price was just never able to be found to purchase it, and now you're probably looking at houses, so again, but that was how much money you don't want to spend on it.
Yeah, and Sophia would probably be able to answer that question in a little more detail probably, or just down to the specs of what it would take. And she'll be at that, the workshop as well, if that would be brought up again.
Park standards document, park design standards. I think I've asked in the past about that. I would think that a formal, well, I think we were told by the city planner that there was.
With like respect to benches and things like that.
Benches, garbage cans, layouts, parking, sign, yeah, all that. I noticed, for example, that there's garbage cans. I think you added garbage cans to the parks quite a bit.
Super
We did.
nice.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah,
And then I immediately think, hey, where's the recycling? And that comes to sort of a design standards for park equipment, what goes into parks. Does it include recycling? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't really include that, but I don't know, does that, has that, is there a document that says, here's what waste facility or waste goes in the park?
So just give it a little background. So this year I applied for a grant, and that's why we got the new trash cans.
Oh.
I don't know if I talked
Yeah, it
about
was in
that at
the
one of the last ones, but,
Newsletter.
sorry?
It was in the newsletter.
So we applied for a grant, we received a grant to place these, as try of a trial period to start with in our downtown area. So it included VFW, Lions Park, and the downtown area. So we do keep track of collections of what we're obtaining as far, tonnage or pounds, as we pick that up. Just to kind of get a gravity of like, can we incorporate this? Is it useful? I mean, is it proactive? Is it beneficial that we could move this down to other parks as well?
Is this grant just for the parks? Or is
no,
it the garbage, waste cans in other places of the city?
Recycle ones, no.
No, just like, did this grant cover garbage cans on the corner of Lake Elmo and Avenue and,
So, as part of that grant, we did have a specialist come out and he looked at the general vicinity of the areas, the 3 areas I just named. And that's where he itemized where they should be located based off of, use. We put 2 additional ones out downtown, as well
okay.
as additional ones.
so it's not just parks? Okay, sorry, I wasn't very clear in what I was asking, but yeah, I didn't know if it was the city whole or just parks. Gotcha. So as far as how that gets structured, then how those actual cans get placed where they are, what the can looks like, whether there's recycling or not, that's decided by staff,
Correct.
okay, without a guiding document or any,
Right, it's just based off use and amenities that are there, based off
Okay.
use, yeah.
okay.
So are you asking for a policy like we have regarding portable toilets? Have something specific about these things at each park?
Yeah, I think a city of our size definitely would benefit and would be typical to have design standards for consistency, for fiscal responsibility, for what we want our parks to look like, to have a guiding design document, design standards document. I think that's appropriate.
So the work plan item is develop a park standard design procedure document.
Yeah, I'd say establish and utilize a park design standards document.
Priority 4.
Does anybody, I guess, through those next planning and policy, as far as, is there any amendments or questions, or need to strike out any of them that are on the list already?
No, I'm okay.
Can we just review the couple of things that we've suggested here, though?
Sure, yeah.
So I have, potentially rephrasing the first bullet point to review and update Parks Master Plan, no change in priority, to make an amendment to say outline options for additional parking in general, right? No change in priority. I'm not sure that we landed on consensus around creating a process and practice for identifying parkland for preservation. So maybe we can talk about that one a little bit, and if I missed anything else, can we also just review that so we can make a motion at the end of this?
Sure, yeah. And, yeah, to clear, the first one, as far as the update, review, make recommendations, and update Parks Master Plan. Yeah, as far as the create a process and practice, I think as far as the consensus, yeah, we could do it by, if the consensus is there's not interest, we could, when we make the motion, people could vote no and say, I don't want that on there, or I could also, I can withdraw it too, create a, I'll cross it off, that'll make it easier.
Okay.
You did have establish and utilize park design standards document?
Yeah,
Okay.
priority 4. Is that-
Thanks a lot, Hank.
Right, and we would probably put that under what category there, Adam? Because it's not a CIP item.
Right.
Yeah, you know what, let's,
Is that an additional park initiative?
yeah, just put it under that, and we'll,
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to include something about, I guess I might have put it under awareness, I'm not sure what we'd put it under, but having a number of things, some things would be on the website, like Vito had talked before about an Instagram thing for the city, and I know there's the YouTube now, but I think it'd be nice to have something like that. The overall arching thing is getting more involvement with the city and input from our residents. Something like in the Fresh Weekly, here's a focus on this park this week, you know, letting people know what some of the amenities are, some things that people are using there. I'd really like something where people can donate things. When I go to other city websites, the park departments, they have, well, some city, in Oakdale, they say, we can't accept any more bench donations, because we have so many benches already in the Oakdale City Park, you know. It's like, wow, would that be a problem to have, you know? Too many donations. Something that would make people aware of, you know, I'd like to do this, you know, have a picture of the four sisters who donated the park bench in Sunfish. You know, this is what they did. Maybe someone would like to remember a family member or something like that. Something on a website that would open an idea to people, these are our parks, we can do something here. I just would like to have more interaction with people. Something when you talked about if they notice something in the park that's broken, when I did the Lights Up City, like I'm a Light Up City, I had
Right.
so many people come and say, talked about Pebble Park, and I said, well, you know, this is great, it's gonna be replaced. They were talking about different playground equipment that was broken or whatever, or lacking. And something where it's easy for them to go to the website and click a memo to the Parks Department, like you say, you know, what about this, whether it's a question or something is broken. Just something that's really user-friendly, so that people are aware of what we're doing in the parks. There were so many people who stopped by that table who were new to the city, and, you know, had lots of questions about it. And it would have been nice, you know, I said, well, we have, you know, some stuff on the website, but they wanted more than that. They wanted, you know, they wanted to be part of the city, I felt like. You know, and I just think that we can do them a better service somehow, you know, putting this as one of the items, what can we do better to involve our new citizens at our current, you know, just to use our parks.
yeah.
Well, it definitely fits under park awareness. And you've mentioned several different things. But something to improve communications, and just state it as to improve communications about the parks, park needs, and provide input on parks through various city social media and communication techniques, something like that.
And maybe it can be as simple as, you know, just on the parks tab with the drop-down menu of all the parks, and identify 8 different items on the park, whether it's a maintenance, it's a graffiti, it's a broken this, so we don't start opening up a big comment window, you never know what you're gonna get. If we can just make it a select few items.
But we
like-
don't have to design here, just
Right.
what we're gonna put in there is to do that.
Yeah, well, we need a quick line item for the work plan, and then, you know, this work plan really would benefit from a summary column, if you will, so we can have a understanding. We have park tree planting, for example, is a perfect bullet point, but then the summary item could state exactly what we intended. Adam, dumb question, does the city have a communications director?
We do not have a communications director. My suggestion would be, and I think it may have been in the last one, was just improve park communications through web and social outlets. Fair enough?
Who owns that?
So both of our clerks are, put the information on there, so that include the Fresh, the Facebook, our, any of our outlet media sources, if it's the newspaper or anything like that. So our clerks do that.
Okay. So that's our communications wing.
Correct.
Did you want to be more specific about any of those items that, to Hank's point of, there's a lot that you have some, you mentioned Instagram, which I think was past conversation. But
I kind of like, on the previous work plan, where you have the general idea and then some specific bullet points. Because that kind of covers some of the things we're mentioning.
Yeah.
So are we looking just for the initial project, say, increase citizen awareness of our parks and ease of contact with the Public Works? I don't know. How general you want to get?
Well, I mean, that's your, I would, if it were me, it's not, it's you. If it were me, I would be very specific and say, I would like, on our work plan, the implementation of a Instagram account for outward-facing awareness. Doesn't have to be parks necessarily, that's not our decision, but definitely include park stuff. And I would like to see a drop-down menu for citizen input and a button on our website. I think those two things, that's what I would do. But
All right, well, let me look at my list here.
some of the stuff when we talk about, and I guess I've kind of danced around it by asking whether we have a department, is the curious thing about this work plan is there are a number of potential responsible owners to some of these work items that we don't define either. And I did forward you a document, kind of a draft document I was working on, and I did it late, and you probably haven't seen it, but that does address that. Because again, there are some things as we as a commission can certainly do as far and take ownership on. We do not tell staff what to do. We're making recommendations to the council. Council can certainly make their recommendations from there. And that's why I'd say, well, if we're going to start an Instagram account, I think that's a good recommendation for us to say. It's a great way for us to get out quick information, visual information about our parks. Council can direct who does that. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to contextualize that, I guess.
All right, so I would suggest that we ask, there would be more, under the awareness section, park awareness, that we involve more social media, such as Instagram, and inserts in the Fresh and other media put out by the city, highlighting park happenings, improvements, options for citizen input on the website for parks, and options to make donations to our parks.
Yeah, cool.
It's a
I
good
think-
start.
Yeah, I think that getting the wording right is important, and I think we should be using the words either residents or visitors, because we know that, like, the
True.
bench, donation came from people that love Lake Elmo's parks but aren't, residents, and I don't think citizens is appropriate either, so.
Good point.
What do you think for a priority there, Pat?
Oh, I guess 3. I'd take discussion on that. You could sway me to 4.
Yeah, and I think it also needs to coincide with like what Peter said too. If we're gonna have a park design standards of a bench and people wanna donate a bench, we wanna have that park standard met. Correct, not otherwise we could, you never know what we'll end up with. So they should probably be some coincide in the same priority, whether they're both 3s or both 4s. Because we'd want to establish that policy for park design and standards. And then off of that, if we're gonna accept donations, if it's tree donations or park donations, if that's what the city would like. Because maybe citizens want to donate trees and go that route as well. People like to donate tangible things sometimes more than monetary value.
I
Yeah.
suggest,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd try to wager you down to a 4 then, Pat.
I'm fine with 4.
So we discussed the last work plan, that prioritization based on, is it, based on time? Is it based on, what is it based on? Does it have to be done immediately? Is that what a priority means, or, what does that mean? So I don't know if it's merits having that conversation again, but from my perspective, it is, and this is based on hearing from you specifically tonight and before about people coming and saying, hey, what's happening with the city? What we're interested in knowing. So to me, that's a high priority if we want to get input. We have no seats taken. If we want to get input from people to say, hey, you have interest, we've got to get that awareness out. And so when I think that's a high priority. I think that that doesn't mean it needs to be done immediately. And I think the same thing about the park design standards as well. We saw that with the porta potties. That's certainly part of that. That's something, an issue that came to us. We had to address it. Does that get rolled into design standards probably in some manner or another? Yeah, absolutely. People want to put a bench in. Do we have a design standards? No, let's probably get one. So as these things come, we can complete them. We can recognize it's a high priority, but that doesn't mean it has to be done immediately. We don't have to have a document done in full. So I would say, I would advocate that it would be higher than a 4 for sure. I think it would be a 1 or a 2 to say. Instagram account that says we've got a survey active right now that's looking for your input on parks. Let's do it. Let's get it done. But
Anybody else?
I think it's a mixed bag, but so really you could put any priority over it because some of this stuff is simply utilizing the systems and processes that we have in place. Some of it, you got to create something and or if it's a pull down menu, that's going to take a lot more time and energy. So a priority is kind of tough for all those things lumped into one basket.
no.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me that this seems like the perfect opportunity for a volunteer. And I think it would be very important for the work plan to be able to review posts as they come up and figure out that like sequence and wording and things like that. So I have no comment on priority anymore. I think it's a super cool idea. I think people that live and visit Lake Elmo parks would love it. I think it would be a great way for us to also consider, bringing more diversity and outside opinions and perspectives and fresh ideas to our Parks Commission. That's a whole users of, people get information through different pathways and we're not communicating through those pathways, but.
I'm okay with leaving it at 4 for now. Is that-
Okay.
And, okay, I'll leave it at that.
And sorry, just for clarification, you were putting this under additional park initiatives?
No, it's park awareness.
Awareness.
Okay.
So we're going back to park awareness.
Did you have more, were you still, or anybody have, we're on maintenance and refurbishing. That park needs assessment, I think, to what I spoke of earlier, as far as, you know, responsible parties, we certainly can be involved in, as commissioners, in doing a needs assessment. We're not gonna do the bullet down there with, you know, park inspections, but needs assessment to go visit parks and say, hey, what's happening? That's something we can be involved in. That's just an aside, so.
We've got a certified playground inspector, so we'll be getting some of those reports. Do we get reports of those?
No,
Okay.
no, it's more like just, it's a checkoff list of safety issues at the playground, is what it is.
Additional park initiatives, the bullet points under there.
So we have two, just to frame us here, we've got two elements here already. Park tree planting bumps up to priority 2, and we have an addition of develop design standard document for parks priority 4.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, what was the second one?
Develop design standard document for
Okay.
parks priority 4.
Gotcha.
Just to like close the thought, I think that we had some really good discussion around seeking land for purchase for the multi-sport complex use. And I think that it seemed like we were also thinking that that joint work session is really going to be the place where a lot of that, the bulk of that work and ideas get developed, and so things are okay as is.
Right. Regardless of how we wordsmith that particular
Yeah.
item, it's going to be resolved or addressed or whatever at that meeting.
Yeah.
And so how we word that really doesn't matter.
But if anyone has further clarifications that they would like to make, that's fine.
Well, I
as
would hope it would matter to some degree. I mean, that's why we're all spending our time here. You know, I guess maybe,
What we've talked about is, we don't even know if there's truly an initiative in this area. So
Yeah.
that anything we list could just be for naught. But we can bring it up during the discussion. That's what we should do. Be ready for it.
well, yeah. I think as a Parks Commission, we could make the recommendation that, or have in our works plan that this is our recommendation, that we do a multi-use park, sports complex, if that's our position, if that's what we want to put in it. We certainly could. Hopefully, there's some level of weight, some little weight put on our recommendation. So I think, I would think the wording, I would hope the wording matters some.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is a two-phase part, right? We're gonna seek land and then see what we can get in for the free power, water, sewer, and then develop from there. So it sounds like this could end up being multi-phase.
Yeah, the key thing here is to make sure that the council and the people that work with the work plan know that this is purely just one little step in the whole process, okay? And so by no means are we just going to just seek this, but as my earlier questions go, that staff is telling us that's what's gonna be happening most of this year. That they're not going to be designing it, they're not gonna be doing all this other things, and that's the input we're going to get from the city council. Maybe they are planning, maybe they wanna move faster, okay? But we'll get that from that meeting.
I wonder if
For
there's
clear-
value in saying that we would like them to consider working with other partners, whether it's the school district or the people behind the community center, something like that, getting more bang for a buck.
Or multi-million-dollar landlords and landowners in the city. There's all kinds of things that could be laid out there.
No, I guess my point there is the multi-use sports complex. To me, this conversation started, it came to, I mean, it's been with a lot of people, but when it came to us, it was ball fields originally, right? And we've got the $1 million, and the discussion was made to update ballparks, right? And then we had a short discussion in the commission, our commission meeting about, was that the intended use for that $1 million? And then we decided to make the recommendation to update those ballparks. When it got to council, the council retracted that and said, no, we're going to explore whether a multi-use complex is viable. We are now making a recommendation in our work plan, or we're recommending our work plan, say, seek land for purchase in a multi-use sports complex. I'm not saying I'm against that or for that either way. I'm just saying that that's the position we are taking. We aren't taking the position of, hey, we should develop regular ballparks. We don't have anything on here about developing or getting rid of ballparks that exist, or using that $1 million for, buying another land that's not a sports complex. I'm just saying, that's the position we're taking. So
Based
that's,
on guidance from staff.
that's why I'm saying that language matters. I mean, and I'm not saying it doesn't.
Well, my only point of saying it didn't matter is if the details that we have all listed here tonight might or might not be, they need to be brought up and they need to be discussed with city council.
Yeah.
But this is enough verbiage to get us in that discussion. This exact discussion, as we've seen from the words here already, will get us and the council to talk about it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Adam has said that we can modify this after that meeting, so there you go. We'll modify it after that meeting.
And we need to have the, if we're gonna have it on the 9th of January for the workshop, we have to have it done by the second latest of the 3rd. This packet needs to be done because then we post it on Wednesday, the 3rd usually. So we try to get it out, that many days ahead of time. So whatever is decided today, we're gonna have to put together this week, the holidays, and then make sure we get it back up to Johnson on the 2nd.
There's probably no reason to reword it or add to it. Like Hank says, we all have our list of things that we know or want in this or wondering what's gonna be in it. The way it's stated is probably just fine then. Because there's gonna be more phases to it and more discussion through city council.
Yeah, and we'll have a dedicated city clerk that will be recording and writing down information concerning this, and her duty will be to basically document what is decided at the city council. So we'll have somebody that'll be an official note taker.
Additional park initiatives in those bullet points. Finance bullet points.
When is the comprehensive parks master plan going to be done?
It'll be done, August 2024.
Yeah. So there's no way, that plan will obviously need money to facilitate whatever the recommendations are. So there's no way to get that into the capital improvement plan that we do this year.
It'll be presented, it'll likely be presented to the Parks Commission before that July meeting or around that time of that July meeting. So maybe some of those things could be taken into consideration at that time.
Okay, thank you.
So would you like to add some language around outlining the financial impact of Parks Master Plan recommendations?
No, that's what I had written that as a suggestion ahead of time, but I think the combination of these two, since they're both priority ones, and since it looks like we're going to have enough information to make those decisions, at least preliminarily, when we do the capital budget in June, so I think they work together.
I would like to see a line item a work plan item to review and make recommendations regarding the number of staff dedicated to city park management. I think that's an important one to consider in the context of all the bullet points we're talking about tonight, as far as whether the work can be done with the staff we have. I've heard it as an explanation in that there isn't, well, I know that we have a half full-time hours dedicated to park.
Well, you could say that I'm in charge of water, sewer, and parks.
So a third probably. And so, to be clear, this has nothing to, is it appropriate, would it make sense to hire more people on there? Because that is a very, very small department. It's not a department. We don't have a parks department. I mean, you could say it that way. Do we review and recommend whether we reestablish a parks department? There was a parks director at one time, not too long ago. So I don't know. That's my thought on finance. I don't know if it's finance or not, but.
So it would be something like review the staff, city support requirements for the parks, something, I don't know, something along that line or whatever.
I think it would be review and make recommendations regarding the number of staff dedicated city park management.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I have a number of bullet points on here that I'm not even going to bring up, because I know in exchanges, there's, the explanation is there's simply not time. We don't have the ability to do it. I don't think as a representative of the city, a citizen in the city, and hearing from others about what we want in our city parks, my job up here is to advocate for our city parks and what our citizens want, and to through recommendations, tell the council that. It's the council's job to say yay or nay and implement or direct or do what they want with that information. But I would not be a good advocate as a citizen for our parks if I didn't say, I think we need to dedicate more funds and staff to this system.
No, you just added funds in there, but
Yeah.
you're really talking about staff.
I'm just on my soapbox, but yes. Yeah.
I think the funding is another.
The funding was a bullet point on there, but we'll skip that.
Yeah, so are we talking generally about reviewing and making recommendations regarding resources for city park management? Or is
Sure,
the specificity
sure,
important?
Sure.
Absolutely.
No, resources is good.
Resources is fine. And I would agree that we've heard that rationale presented to us several times, at least over my tenure of a couple of years, that, oh, we can't do this because there's not the resources. We can't develop a web page. We can't do this. We can't do that. We can't do this. And with the growth in the city and, as we've heard already, new people flowing in and wanting this kind of thing, I think it is an appropriate line item to put in a work plan, especially at a priority two.
I'm comfortable with it being a 2.
2 works for me.
Anybody have any other suggested amendments or clarifications or additions?
No, can I make a motion?
You already have one,
No.
right?
And it has been seconded,
And
and
we-
we're discussing.
Yeah. Now, you re-summarize the motion again and re-vote on it if you wanted to.
What motion do we have on?
To
To
amend the
amend.
Parks Commission 2024 work plan is presented.
That was just the verb to get us into this. It was just the action to get us into motion. Okay, fine.
Yeah, and we voted to discuss.
Okay.
Now we would vote to actually amend based
Steve.
on Commissioner Aish's, sorry, I do that all the time, Ash.
Her notes.
Her fantastic notes. Are you comfortable? We can,
Yes, I am.
okay.
Okay, so I make a motion to amend the Parks Commission 2020 work plan as presented to include the following. Under planning and policy, rephrase the statement to review, make recommendations, and update the Parks Master Plan with no change in priority. To rephrase the bullet point to read, outline options for additional parking with no change in priority. Under park awareness, add that category with the bullet point to improve resident awareness of parks via new social media like Instagram, The Fresh, and the city website, which highlight park happenings and opportunities for visitor input and donations with a priority of 4. Under the heading additional park initiatives, adjust the park tree planting to a priority 2, and add develop design standards document for parks with a priority of 4. And then finally, under the finance heading, add the bullet point to review and make recommendations regarding resources for city park management with a priority of 2.
I second.
The discussion on that.
Sounded appropriate.
I'll- I'll just
you for
make the,
taking notes.
yes, I'll make the comment of thank you very much for that. And I'll also make the comment that I'm not going to follow proper order and repeat that motion. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Awesome work. We're on to our, I was gonna say last, but I guess I don't know that for certain. Where'd my agenda go? Playground replacement. We're at that point where we could decide to make a motion to table that till the next meeting, or we can continue on. I'll pause to see if anybody wants to do that.
We can definitely, well,
I'll take your.
if I, yeah, we can definitely put that off until our January meeting, and, if you're comfortable with that. Because it isn't in a rush for it, so, I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
It was just something to just do some pre-planning to get things set up, so,
Do you anticipate prices going up in the month
no,
between?
not at this time. No.
But the reason that you're bringing this back to us is just because it's updated?
Yeah, no, it's more of a, to get, to streamline what staff will be doing towards these parks.
Okay.
To itemize those things towards, what we
Okay,
plan
fine.
to do.
Well, I'll make the motion to table agenda item 7 to the January 2024 meeting.
I'll second it.
Discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Communications, agenda item number 8.
Again, just a reminder, our meetings in January and February are both on a Wednesday versus that third Monday. So just make note of that. And again, our January 9th workshop with city council, we just discussed several times. So I will need a roll call, I'll probably reach out to you at least a week ahead of time for a roll call for that, to make sure that we will have a quorum there. Otherwise, they won't hold it, so. Good. Because I know we will have probably some absence in there, so.
Quick question, do you know if there has been a call out, I don't know what the term is, for a commission member, a replacement of commission, or,
So it is posted on the
It is,
website,
okay.
but as far as like person coming forward or something like that, they'd be interviewed by council, and I don't think
Yeah.
that, none of that has happened.
okay, so.
Yeah,
I-
we're tentatively, since we have an opening for city council, we're tentatively looking at having a 6 PM meeting before the 7 PM meeting on January 2nd. And on the tentative agenda that we were developing today at our agenda setting meeting, we have appoint parks and planning commission members. And one of the staff had said they thought they had a citizen or two that might be interested. And so we will reach out to those people if they are so interested, have them scheduled to come at 6 o'clock. Council can discuss, ask questions for the commissions and the council member, and then we could do appointments after that. So that's where, if anybody is listening to this meeting online,
Apply.
we could apply.
Yeah.
Just reach out to the city clerk.
That would be my communication, is we reach out to the folks that we know that would be interested. I know that our qualifications is that they be a resident of the city, and it does say that they should represent all geographical areas in the city and a cross-section of the population of the city. So let's get someone good. It'll be hard to replace Juan, but reach out to those that you know. I won't refrain from reaching out for my neighbor, because that's got that geographical area covered, so. Any other communications from the commission?
I have one question. Saw people walking their dogs off leash in Sunfish, and I suggested that they use the new dog park. They said, oh yeah, that'll be nice. But they wondered about having a portable toilet put by the old fire station, because that's where a lot of walkers and now more dog people are going. Would that be something you'd consider before the dog park is officially opened?
So most of our portable toilets will come in the spring, so we'll likely make that part of that, because it'll be part of the next year's budget anyway,
Okay,
because it
because-
does meet the criteria.
Because the Lions Park normally has a.
And currently, there are 2 at Sunfish now in the parking
Right.
lot,
There's 2.
a handicap accessible.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other communications? Communications from our city administrator?
Just catching up on what's new, trying to figure it out,
Okay.
studying a lot of water. I am learning more about water quality in the last week than I knew in the rest of my life, so,
Unfortunately, I guess, huh?
yeah.
No. Okay, well, Adam, did you have anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Item number 9 is adjournment. Someone want to make a motion to